General fund appropriations. Appropriations, another designation for that would be expenditures. But when you're talking about budget, it's typically appropriation. So what makes up our general fund appropriations? There's actually basically 4 different categories. One is the general government services, and that is namely your administrative accounts, which are city council, city clerk, city treasurer, city manager, city attorney, finance, and human resources. So a lot of what we do is internal. We service the other departments. The next category is public protection. As you can see, police, fire, and development services makes up 67% of our general fund budget. Then general services, and that includes facility maintenance, our city shop, our street maintenance, a portion of our street maintenance. Not all street maintenance is paid by general fund, only a portion of it, and part of it. Then the 4th category is community services. So the general fund also provides library, cultural arts, recreation, community center, and senior services, and that makes up 10% of our budget. So you can see the majority of our general fund budget goes to public protection. Okay, now the next slide that you're going to see here is, and I've condensed it somewhat, but this is what the adopted budget looked like. So our original shortfall before our balancing option at that point in time, which was June 17th, we worked on our budget March, April, May, and we adopted it in June. So we had a $2.8 million shortfall at that point in time. And we used, as you can see, various options for balancing, which at this point in time, some of that has not been realistic, so we've had to change our budget projection. But at that time, when the budget was adopted, we proposed at June 30th there would be $58,000 left in general fund. Now the next slide is going to depict the current picture that we have right now. And what that is it uses that same $58,000 at the beginning, way up there on top. Now what changes have taken place? We have reevaluated the revenues, and this, again, we don't have these numbers set in stone because we can only make projections, but based on the economic uncertainties, these are the adjustments we're making to the revenues. And then underneath that is our expenditures, our changes in expenditures, and this is a result of our mediation proposal, and that is the meet and confer with the city employees. So the net adopted budget at this point in time is $1.7 million. It's a $1.7 million shortfall. So in order to balance the budget, we are projecting at June 30th, if we did nothing, we would have a negative $1.7 million in general fund, which obviously we can't. Our revenues should equal our expenditures. So then the next schedule is just options for balancing. And again, I've condensed this. So what we're saying is that right now, at June 30th of 2008, in other words, last fiscal year, what we ended up with at the end of the year was $500,000, $500,000. What we have currently in our general fund reserve, in other words, not our operating fund, but set aside in a reserve fund, is almost $1.2 million. The city is projecting to sell property, both the Finnegan property and the Gun Club property, and those are the dollar amounts, I believe, that are the appraised value of those parcels. And then number 4 is layoffs. And what makes up that number of layoffs, and we arbitrarily went back 6 years. You know, it really depends on if we determine layoffs, how many layoffs, how far back do we have to go, but this number represents going back 6 years. So it would be everybody, each position, each employee that was hired during the last 6 fiscal years. And those were broken down by category, and we separated those out because we do have layoff policies and procedures that we have to follow. So those are made up of part-time employees, permanent part-time employees, and then permanent employees broken down by safety and non-safety, and then non-general fund employees. because of our layoff procedures and our bumping rights, there is conceivably a possibility that a general fund employee could bump into a non-general fund department. So at this point in time, those numbers amount to $5 million. So now, how are we going to balance the budget? That's the question of the evening.
Question to us? Well, I think we have some ideas. I don't know if the council may want to share some of those. I think we were talking about perhaps after looking at that, using some of the, I know certainly you had mentioned this before, but we would look at using some of that initial fund reserves that we have to kind of ease the pain a little bit. Councilman, you had some ideas. You want to share those? But if we use some of the reserves and we bank on the sale of the property, and I don't know how real that is, so that's something that would help if we use the reserve funding. I think we need to use it because it's like, you know, if we're hungry and we need to eat, we have $5 in our pocket, we need to spend the $5, so at least we can eat something to get us to the next meal. So,
I agree with Luis. I've looked at other cities. This time, with the economy dropping, you have to use your reserve. I mean, if the city can recuperate through sale of land or other, cuts that we're going to do, we recuperate this money and make sure that it's being put back in reserve. I will support that. I think we cannot allow ourselves to be pushed into the corner, cut down in services to police and fire and recreation, and we might have to do some cuts at the end, with the agreement and the MOU that we have, with employees. But I'm talking about serious cuts in some of the programs that we have to bring about a balanced budget. We might have to do it. I mean, there's no other ways that we can balance the budget without those measures that we're taking, using reserve, cut down some programs that we have. Those are all the things that we need to do to balance the budget.
Well, first, let's go by process of elimination. First, I'm surprised that the general fund owns the properties and it's not owned by 38. Is that correct? It's not. It's a general fund. Now, so the picture becomes a little bit clearer. How real are the probabilities of the sale of the two properties? Who's negotiating? I'm talking about, relatively soon.
That's for the Yellow Center development airport.
And how? Where is the city with the negotiations? Is it something that should be looked at? Yes, you're here.
As a representative of that development, how serious are you about?
Did you bring me a check with you?
You bring a check?
So,
Good evening. As Mayor and council members, my name is Sarah Magana-Withers, and I'm Director of Development for the Charles Company, and we own the property that's along 2nd Street. As many of you know, we have been in the process, we've been working on this project for about 6, 7, 8 years now. And we are currently in the midst of our EIR, which we hope to be completed soon. And we have been negotiating with your city manager as well as your city attorney. We have a draft owner participation development agreement and we have also negotiated the Finnegan property as well as the gun club. And also the exchange of land